Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Mars-Neptune conjunction that's happening in Pisces at 28 degrees on April 28th, but we're really going to feel this energy from the 24th until around May 2nd. That's when it will be with an orb. So before we do that though, I want to check in and see how everyone did during the Scorpio full moon that we had on April 23rd, because that has something to do with what we're talking about today. Personally, I took my own advice that I gave for Leo risings in that video, and I took some time to reflect on my inner life and my private life and to really allow myself to rest because there's a lot of moving parts in my life right now. I'm moving to Denver. Anyone in Denver that's watching? And our family dog of 15 years, died last week, and so just a lot of things happening in my life. And I wrote about it in the community tab if you guys want to check it out. And I wrote kind of about what Scorpio asks us to do, which is to really feel all of the things and to not look away when things get hard and to see things through, because on the other side of that can be such a beautiful metamorphosis. And so I wanted to ask you guys what kind of emotions or what came up during that time for you. It doesn't have to be life changing. Full moons and new moons generally aren't if they're not on an eclipse cycle, but it just brings light to something generally during the full moon. Something gets illuminated within us, sometimes regarding the house that Scorpio is placed in, and other times maybe not, you know? So yeah, what did you guys experience? Because in traditional astrology, Scorpio's ruler is Mars, and that's what is conjoining with Neptune. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about that. Um, and before we really get started, I do want to say I do honestly always encourage that people watch the intro as well as their signs, just because you get a much more holistic understanding of number one, my ethos as an astrologer, as a teacher, as everything. And you get a more holistic understanding of the sky. And what I do with my videos is they really do kind of like build on each other. At least right now they do, because I don't just move. I don't think we move from like one aspect to another randomly. I do think things get tied in together, and it's really interesting to see how like the sky weaves a story for us and how we can be a part of that story consciously when we recognize that these things are kind of tied in together. And also, when I do the sign by sign, I'm not giving all the information for every single sign. And so there's parts that are really, there's a lot of nuance given in the beginning of the videos that are really important, I think, especially if you're newer to astrology, to really understand that it's not just what someone says in the all signs that's possible, but there's actually like so many more iterations. And I try to bring as much as I can into one video, but obviously, like, I'm human, so I forget stuff as well. But yeah, so I mean, what I do is I just like listen to it while I'm doing other stuff because I listen to these videos too. And it's so tempting to always go to my sign. And sometimes, you just need to get a little bit of advice real quick. But if I can, I always try to listen to the intro. So that's just my spiel. So without further ado, let's begin. So, as I said, Mars is moving into a conjunction with Neptune at 28 degrees in Pisces. And then shortly after, it's going to be leaving Pisces, gladly leaving Pisces and moving into its own sign of Aries. Then Venus is going to be moving into Taurus at the end of April as well. And then Mercury is going direct on April 25th. So it feels like things are going to feel a little bit better. But I want to tell you guys that intuitively, I feel like April and May, really March as well, have been this very like contained energy. So we even talked about like the Jupiter Uranus conjunction and how it was happening in Taurus. So it's like it's not going to be like handed to you in this like really like decked out, like gaudy, colorful way. It's like it's really given to you in this like quietly delivered on your porch. And for some of us, depending on our charts, we get the delivery right away, and for other of us that didn't get directly hit, this is a 14-year cycle, right? So being really aware that even though like I think that's actually something that we can learn from this, is that these conjunctions that we have, like Jupiter Uranus, they can be beautiful and still not be like bam, like in your face and holy crap, life is just amazing all of a sudden. And also, like I said, it's a 14-year cycle, so it can take time, and it will take time for it to develop in that area of your life. And in May, I still feel that there's this level of containment, and I'm going to talk about the May 7th new moon and how that's going to be a great time for us to plant new seeds in regards to, because Jupiter and Uranus are still going to be an orb of that conjunction. So it's really still going to have to do something with that. However, there's a feeling of we're still kind of like looking very like right in front of us, like almost like taking one step in front of the other, and that's it. We're just like building the foundations, which is what Taurus really asks of us, right? It's super earthy, so it's like we're building like the practical foundations, so that in June or the end of May, really June, is when we can bring some more lightness and kind of like take flight a little bit. In the sense, I mean, I'm just thinking is Jupiter and Gemini, and Gemini is so airy, but it would be helpful for us to cement the practical foundations of our lives in May. And the new moon in Taurus would be a great time to do that, so that after that, we can allow more lightness and ease to come into our lives, and fun and play and things like that. Okay, so now let's talk about the 28 degrees. I felt called to look at the Sabian symbol for this degree. And when you're doing that, you generally round up. So it's going to be actually 29 degrees, which is an anaretic degree, which is kind of like a karmic degree. I mean, there's a lot you can say about energetics, but it's a powerful degree point. And so I don't always do this, but for some reason, I got pulled into doing that, and so I just kind of went with it. And the Sabian symbol for 29 degrees Pisces is light breaking into many colors through a prism. And one author, Dr. Mark Edmund Jones, says about this. So light breaking into many colors through a prism. So you can also meditate on this and figure out what that kind of means to you, right? But this is what Dr. Jones says about this. This is a symbol of the world's stability and of the refusal of nature to change any aspect of herself unnecessarily. The reliability of normal processes and the consistency of true intelligence are the foundation of a common knowledge which man has been expanding through the centuries, and his continuance of the control he has gained over his environment is promise of a much more wonderful achievement ahead. He can take any convenient facet of the reality at his hand and fashion it into an effective instrument for a measure of the whole potential. And that's so amazing because it really reinforces what I intuitively feel and just knowledge wise feel, that this Mars and Neptune joining in Pisces is after this full moon. Because we have Mars, which is like the warrior, right? Like it's like this passionate, driven warrior, and it's meeting with Neptune, the planet of the collective consciousness, dissolution, deception, but also like spirituality. So there's like a desire to fight for something greater than ourselves. And I just love how like everything that we were kind of saying though, about how this is still a time for us to root in the foundations and not really take action, right? Because even though there's like a little bit of forward movement, this just feels like Mars, the planet of action, is being dissolved by Neptune in a little bit. And we'll talk about that more. It doesn't mean that like no action is warranted. But when we talk about the 29-degree Sabian symbol, and it's talking about that nature doesn't change any aspect of herself unnecessarily. And so this is not a time when we want to be moving into action unnecessarily. And so really the best thing to do is to really ponder about the actions that we want to take and whether or not they are serving something higher than ourselves, or if it's just for our own egoic desires, because that's Neptune doesn't love that, you know? And so then once we have that Taurus new moon that's sextiling Saturn on May 7th, maybe then we can plant the seed. Maybe then we can kind of get started on what kind of actions we want to take. And this time it's saying, hey, in order to make sure that that change is necessary, let's reflect on what it's actually serving and who it's actually serving. Is it serving something greater than yourself? And that can be something greater than yourself, can be your children, it can be your family, your relationship, it can be the collective, it can be something spiritual, right? It can be serving your God. And like when we talk about fighting for something greater cause, it's like the desire to change has to be for something of great value to us, right? So this is not an unnecessary change that we want to be making. And so, yeah, this is just still, for me, it's like more stillness. And I know that that can be difficult. And I'll talk about some actions that could maybe be warranted during this time, but it feels like this is calling us to birth something new. And that birthing has to do with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction that we have in Taurus that is going to be in the same sign as a new moon. And if you haven't watched that video, I will link it down below because it is important to know which area of that house of your chart that falls in and like what it could possibly mean for you. But I feel like that's the gift that's wanting to be like birthed through us. And Mars Neptune conjuncting in Pisces are kind of giving us the necessary contemplation to think, is this a worthy cause? Is this a worthy action? Is this going to serve something greater than me? And, you know, this could have something to do with anything that came up during the full moon in Scorpio on April 23rd, or really that whole cycle, which started with a new moon in Scorpio on November 13th in the same house, right? And so then it culminated on April 23rd, 2024. And so during that time, like what kind of changes, depending on what house you have Scorpio in, what kind of changes happened during that time? What kind of revelations did you have? What kind of experiences did you have that you gained something from? Because I think that is contributing to how we are feeling now with this Mars Neptune conjunction in Pisces. Okay, it's interesting to me that we had Mars in Pisces conjuncting Saturn, because generally what Saturn does is it creates boundaries, right? It's like what are the steps we're going to do? What are the limitations? There's limitations in Saturn. So Mars and Saturn came together and are like, okay, what are the steps? What kind of limitations are we feeling in this area of our lives? What are the steps that we need to take? Like it's very like it's like a taskmaster kind of. And then Mars moves forward and meets with Neptune, which is like the dissolver. And I think that's so interesting because in alchemy, we have this axiom that's solve et coagula, which means dissolve and coagulate. And it pretty much is saying that in order to make something new, in order to coagulate something new, we first have to dissolve something. And here it's almost like we had the opposite. Like we had this pressure to like build something new, and then Mars and Neptune is like, but is it actually worthy? Is it a worthy cause? Is it a worthy action that you want to fight? This war, this cause that you have, is it serving something greater than yourself? And then Saturn comes back into play with a new moon because it's sextiling the Taurus new moon on May 7th. So that now, after you've contemplated the Mars and Neptune things, you can decide whether or not, yes, this is a worthy cause or not, or rebuild it in a way that you want to plant that seed for this new cycle that's happening in Taurus. Because to me, I do really think that for some of us, like Jupiter Uranus wants to give us this gift in that Taurus house. And during that new moon is a great time to kind of materialize the gift that wants to be birthed through us. And so we get a choice in that, right? It's like it's something that can be given to us, but we get a choice, and it's free will on how we want to move forward and plant what seeds we want to plant with the information that Jupiter and Uranus give us in that, you know? So it's always about following your own authority and your own free will, and recognizing that all we can do is listen to what the divine tells us, right? So now I want to get into what Mars and Neptune coming together can really look like, and the different archetypes and different meanings of these two planets coming together. Because to me, it's almost like a dissolution of action, right? And so this is what I was saying earlier about like this being more of a reflection period. Um, and if we choose to, we can choose to abstain from action for a higher cause, right? Like for something greater than us. Or it could be about acting on fantasy and dreams and reality, especially because it's happening in Pisces. So, like being aware that if you do take action, it may not be grounded in a lot of reality at this time. And so, like, can we get to a place without like dissociating and without repressing, to really get to a place where we feel at peace with saying, hey, I can see that this may possibly not be a correct action to take at this time. Can I push it back for like a week or two? And in some ways, like action could be warranted. Like maybe you have a spiritual mission that you feel like you're on, or you're fighting something for the greater collective's spirituality, and or just the greater collective, and you feel like taking action during, like, that's the type of action that I see that could be warranted during this time. Like for example, like protesting something that is of deep value to you, like protesting something that feels like, um just had this protesting war, like that is, especially if it's coming from a place of like wanting peace for the collective, that's something that could be like warranted during this time. There are also like actions you could be taking if you think that there's illusions and deceit happening around you, and you need to take action to kind of like lift the veil, right? Because Neptune does kind of cover things in a veil of disillusionment sometimes. In the sign by sign, I might talk about like maybe not taking action, but know that there are some actions that are warranted during this time. And beyond all of that, like always tuning in and feeling like, do I want to take action right now? Like, regardless of what the sky says, you're like, okay, the sky's saying this, but how do I feel? Like, what do I want to do at this time? And even this time, like, I could see Mars and Neptune coming together being really a time of like increased inner strength, in it, like inner spiritual strength, the strength to like overcome, but not in the same ways that other planets would have this. It's like the strength to overcome because we can see past the boundaries of a situation. But that's kind of like the inner strength that I see, is like that by dissolving into something bigger than yourself, you gain so much strength rather than constraining yourself like Mars or like Saturn would, which is not bad. It's just different. It's just different ways. And Neptune, there's like a instinctive faith in that, even if as a Pisces person it's not conscious, there's like this instinctive faith in the universe. It's inherent. And so this could be a time of like increased faith for some people, like I guess that's kind of going off of what I was saying about like increased strength, increased spiritual strength. So, as I've mentioned, I don't believe that most actions are supported during this time, like making an action to change something. And I gave some examples as to kind of what actions could actually be really supported during this time. However, I want to always reiterate, this is a general astrology reading. And, there is no fear in making a mistake, or like acting when the sky doesn't support it. I've been studying astrology for 14 years, and I have experimented with this for over a decade. It actually recently just happened, where Mercury retrograde, and I was getting a procedure done, and my boyfriend was like, didn't you say like you shouldn't do this during Mercury retrograde? And I said, yes, you are correct. And also, this is kind of like we're moving and I need to get this done at this time. And there was actually like two things that had to happen. And I went into it with this conscious awareness that, hey, I understand this is a Mercury retrograde and I might have to redo these things. That's not always the case. And I also trust that if I do have to redo them or something goes wrong, and the actually, there's three things. I have to get car repaired too. Um, but if things don't happen the right way, or the right way, I trust that it's happening for a reason. And if I have a growth mindset, then everything can at least be a learning opportunity, right? And if we're always wanting to grow as human beings, then it's okay if things don't work out every single time. And we can learn something from it. And I remember when I started learning about astrology and they'd say, like, this is what you can and cannot do during Mercury retrograde. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And it felt so restricting. And it wasn't until I gave myself permission to experiment and say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out for myself. And then experienced it for myself. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, no, this is kind of true. Like a lot of stuff that I do during Mercury retrograde does come back to be like redone at a later date. But that, you know, sometimes that's okay. And can I deal with it? Yes, I can. So, with that being said, though, I do want to talk about the sign by signs. And we will start with the Aries sun and rising. So, this conjunction is happening in your 12th house. And Saturn and Mars were just here on April 10th. And Saturn will be here till 2026. So, this is the house of your dreams, the subconscious, overseas travel, all things hidden, self limiting beliefs. Like I said in my previous video for the full moon, there was this energy that you guys were wanting to move forward and also feeling like you weren't quite there yet. And like I said in the intro, like collectively, I feel like it's no one's really like collectively, it's not supported to be like start a new beginning right now. Like it still feels like we're just like taking care of like the baby steps, but um, your ruler is now being dissolved by Neptune. So something needs to be like dissolved or spiritualized in some way, or maybe even sacrificed for something greater than yourself. And for you, I wonder if it's something to do with shared values, shared finances, or like deep intimacy with others that needs to be transformed or dissolved in some way that dissolves like your own needs in a way, for the greater, for something bigger than yourself. So it could be the relationship that you're in, but it feels like there are some self-limiting beliefs around shared values, shared finances, joint ventures, intimacy with another person, loans, investments. And it feels like in order for you to get the gift, which is happening in your second house of Taurus, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and then the new moon on May 7th, it wants to, Mars wants to clear up and make sure that if that you're ready to receive this gift by making sure that those self-limiting beliefs that we talked about are kind of being used to serve something greater than yourself. I hope that makes sense. I can feel it inside of myself, but I don't know if it's coming out correctly. And maybe that's because your ruler is being dissolved by Neptune right now. And so like there's less boundaries and it feels like less coherent in this time until like May 2nd. And that's not going to last super long because Mars will move into Aries and move out of this conjunction. And Mars loves being in Aries. And then it's going to meet up with Chiron and the North Node. So that's going to be very interesting as well. And then Jupiter is moving into Gemini at the end of May. So like things, and that's a much easier transit for Aries than Jupiter being in Taurus. So it's going to feel a lot lighter and that new sense of like freshness will come. But right now, yeah, there feels like there's something about self-limiting beliefs or some subconscious dream work, something that you have to do and kind of almost like sacrifice in terms of those shared things that I mentioned, the eighth house things, so that you can receive this beautiful new gift on May 7th that you can plant the seeds of and see it to fruition. Yeah, so let me know in the comments below how that resonates for you guys. Taurus, Sun, and Rising. This is happening in your 11th house. Saturn and Mars were here on April 10th, and Saturn will be here till 2026. So this is an area that you guys have been working on a lot this month, which is like your dreams and wishes and hopes for the future, your organizations that you belong to, your social groups, your friends groups, um, any clubs that you're a part of. And Mars and Neptune now come in and ask to like spiritualize this in some way and recognize that whatever you are building in this house, because you've got Saturn there, in some way is asking you to sacrifice something of yourself for the greater good. And when I say that, it's like in the same sense as like spiritualizing it, because when we are when we make something or we follow a spiritual path, there is a sense of sacrifice because we say, yes, I'm giving up like my own needs in order to serve something that I believe is more important than just myself. And we're doing that in an active way. So it's not like dismissive of our own needs and not self-abandoning, right? But doing it because we are choosing to serve something that we feel is more important to us. This might have something to do or some revelation that you had around one-on-one partnerships, your romantic partner, business partner, anyone you work one-on-one with, and maybe how those relationships or how you work with people one-on-one need to transform in order for you to better serve a collective or an organization or a group or a club that you're a part of that's really important, like your friends group, or even, you know, just your own hopes, future hopes and dreams. Because Saturn's here till 2026, so you're building something here, and you will be rewarded for any sort of willing sacrifice that you make, because Saturn loves hard work and sacrifice as well. So and the gift here really for you is like a new sense of attitude, a new outlook on life, a new you, because the Jupiter Uranus conjunction happened in Taurus, and the new moon that's happening on May 7th and sextiling Saturn is also happening in your sign. And so this is like that would be a really great time to plant a new seed or jump on a new idea regarding your outlook or your attitude in life, or how you show up in your organizations, maybe that you're a part of, that you're building, or just how you show up in the world. And if you're a Taurus rising, this could actually really just be like how you look physically. You know, you could be changing something about the way you look, and it's like gonna really have important implications for you in some way. So let me know how that resonates down below, and good luck with this transit, you guys. So Gemini, Sun, and Rising, this Mars-Neptune conjunction is happening in your 10th house. Now, Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here till 2026. And the feeling I get for Geminis right now, honestly, is like the universe really wants something big for you to change. And this doesn't have to be like, I don't know, like just this Jupiter Uranus conjunction in your 12th, and Uranus being in your 12th house for 6 years now, and now Jupiter moving into Gemini at the end of May. Like, I really feel like, and then Saturn in your 10th house of your public image, your reputation, your career, life direction. It feels like you're being wanted to give something, you're being wanted to be given something really big in terms of your entire outlook on life, because the 12th house is these like self-limiting beliefs, right? So it's almost like Saturn's asking you to focus and define your choices in your career, public image, reputation, all these things. And for Gemini rising especially, like this can feel like some sort of limitation in that area of your life, right? Like there's limits being placed in that so that you can kind of build how you want it to look over time. And definitely the universe, I feel like, is asking you to put in the work here. But in your career or like reputation stuff, there are self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back. During this time, the Mars Neptune conjunction is asking you to look at your career, your public life, your public image. Is it serving others in a way that feels good to you? Is it serving something bigger than yourself? Is it, actually, I just got this thought too that a lot of Geminis might be actually wanting to work in something spiritual, having a career in something spiritual, like astrology, human design, tarot, hypnotherapy, dream work, something that deals with like these subconscious or esoteric things. I could definitely see Geminis moving towards that, or looking to that as a way to kind of help this things that is going on with their Gemini, with their 10th house. So do I have a lot of Geminis here? Like, do I have a lot of Gemini sun and risings looking to astrology to kind of help them get some answers about what's going on in their 10th house stuff right now? Um, and on May 7th, whatever you're thinking about and reflecting on during this time, May 7th, there is a new moon that's happening in your 12th house, and it could be a really beautiful time for you to really plant a new seed in your subconscious so that these self-limiting beliefs that may be holding you back will no longer hold you back in building Saturn in the 10th house, this career, this public image and reputation, life direction that you want. So that's why, like, to me, it feels quite big for you guys right now. Um, so take this time for reflection and plant the seeds when the time is a little bit more supportive. And yeah, so let me know how this resonates for you guys. All right, Cancer, Sun, and Rising. It's so interesting because every time I do an all signs video, I'll have at least one sign that's difficult to access. And this time around, it was you guys. And I was kind of surprised because I know you guys are, got Pluto on the 8th and just got done with Pluto on the 7th. That's not the easiest transit for most people. I'm in it right now. So, but I did feel like there was any crazy heaviness for you guys. And so I was kind of surprised that I wasn't able to access your energy. So I intuitively got this like feeling to do a tarot card reading for you guys to see what came up and like where my where my insight's being pulled. And so when I did, I got actually the Ace of Pentacles, which I thought was interesting because whenever I see that show up, it generally is a literal job offer. That is a pattern that I see a lot. But it also could be like an idea for a new business, the beginning of a manifestation regarding abundance or a career idea or some sort of like something towards, yeah, like material abundance. So I would love to know if that kind of resonates for you guys because it's actually a pretty nice card and it kind of like reinforces this feeling that I was like, I don't think they're going through a super tough time. I mean, obviously some Cancer, Sun, and risings can be going through difficulty, but it feels like you guys are like not getting super bogged down all the time. Like there's like glimmers of hope for you. And so interestingly enough though, what this tarot card pulled me towards because of like the abundance and physical stuff, like the physical material abundance and wealth, it's really pointing to your 10th house, which you have Aries, Mercury going direct in Aries in your 10th house, and you've got Mars moving into Aries. We have Chiron in your 10th house of Aries. We have North Node in your 10th house of Aries. So it feels like I was being more drawn to actually talk about all of this stuff that's happening. And that's a lot of planets and points to have in the top of your chart. So yeah, you know what? This could be like your beliefs are changing about what it means to be successful in this world because this Mars Neptune conjunction is happening in your 9th house. So maybe there are some new beliefs, new spiritual beliefs that are going to be or new beliefs that you have to form and spiritualize in order for your career and your life direction to really take off. And or like I said, it could be like your beliefs are having to change in a way that allows this new direction in your life. And in order to do that, there's like a surrender, there's a spiritualizing some sort of belief system or some knowledge that you have, maybe even getting like a mentor to help you with this, like a spiritual mentor, because the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is happening in your 11th house. And so there's something that's wanting to be birthed in your future hopes, dreams, and wishes in the organizations that you're a part of, the clubs and the groups that you're a part of, the um, friends of group, like the groups of friends that you have, and any like clubs that you're a part of or that you feel like you belong to, or sacrificing some sort of belief system that you have that may be holding you back in your career. And that's going to give you the gift of like, because the 11th house is also like gains, so it's like the career and the gains from it. um and that's the 14-year cycle that you guys are entering in. So on May 7th, when you have the new moon, that would be a great time to plant any seeds about your future hopes, dreams, wishes, all the 11th house stuff I mentioned, because those are really being asked to be birthed through you and given to you. So let me know down below how that resonates for you guys. So Leo sun and Leo rising, this conjunction is happening in your 8th house. Saturn, Mars, we're together here on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here till 2026. So this is like a heavy house, right? There's like karma here. And this isn't bad, especially when you've got malefics like Saturn moving through there, because it's almost like a purging or giving you an opportunity to really clear the karma. And having Mars and Saturn there, wow, the two malefics, to really just give you an opportunity to find a way out of any limitations that you're having. And now Neptune's coming in with Mars to say, hey, can we spiritualize or dissolve some aspect of what's happening in this 8th house? And this can be very deep for Leos because it's regarding your 4th house too. I think the 4th house has something to do with this. So the 4th house is like the spiritual foundation, the house of your mom, the relationship with your mother, your home life. And it's like, it's asking for you to spiritualize or understand that whatever you're sacrificing in the 8th house. So if you're having debt that you're going through, if you are repairing your fear of intimacy with another, like deep intimacy with somebody else, any karmic baggage that you're dealing with, any loans, investments, failed venture, join, fair, oh my gosh, failed joint ventures that you're dealing with, can you understand that maybe this is happening in order to serve something higher? Because for you guys, the gift is in your 10th house, right? Like Jupiter Uranus conjunction in your 10th house is wanting to give you this career, this life direction, this public image, this reputation that is so beautiful and sustainable and stable, which is what Leos want, right? Because we've got Taurus on the midheaven if you're a Leo rising. And it's saying, yeah, we want to give this to you. But first, let's purge any of this 8th house stuff and recognize that any of it that you're going through or any difficulty that you're having with the 8th house stuff is to serve something greater than yourself. So I'll give you an example for myself. Like my partner and I are have significantly decreased our joint income in order to do something that we love. And for me, that's something spiritual, right? So it's kind of like this sacrifice, but this is where I talk about like this. When I talk about sacrifice, people are like, oh, like I have to sacrifice. It's like, yeah, but there's some times when, like, for me, it's like I'm choosing to sacrifice. I am wanting because I know that the reward is worth it. And in regards to that, like, this is just a state of reflection still. And when the new moon happens on May 7th, this is such a beautiful time for you guys, for Leo risings, to plant a new seed in your business direction, in your career direction, your reputation, how you want to be seen in the world at large. And it's going to be sextiling Saturn too. So, like, there is even more added stability to that. But yeah, let me know how that resonates for Leo and Leo rising. All right, so for my Virgo sun and Virgo rising, this Mars Neptune conjunction is happening in your seventh house. Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here until 2026, really working on those relationships. I just recently had that transit when I had my Saturn return, so I know how it is, and it's not always fun, but it really does either build up the relationship into a more stable situation, or it does not really allow the relationship to move forward if there is no if there's no strong foundation. Now, Mars and Neptune are coming in and they want to alchemize something regarding your relationship and how you communicate with others in order to serve the whole of the community, even if that community is just the relationship between you and your partner. And all of this is pointing to the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that I was talking about in my video that I did in the ninth house. And so check that out for a more like complete understanding of what that is asking to be birthed through you. But know that your relationship struggles, so whether that's a romantic relationship or if it's in business or how you would just relate to anybody in one-on-one situations, it's trying to birth a new belief system for you that is more helpful for everyone in your surroundings, in your community. And it's much more aligned to who you are now. So, like, there's been changes that have happened in you, and the belief systems need to be upgraded and integrated into your partnerships, your relationships, your communication. Um, and this is a cycle that this ninth house, Jupiter Uranus conjunction, it's lasting 14 years. And May 7th, there is going to be a new moon in Taurus that's sextiling Saturn. And during this time, you could be really, it would be a beautiful time to cement a new belief system in regard to how you relate to other people and your seventh house. So, like, during this time, Neptune and Mars being together, there's something about your seventh house that's asking to be, there's some sacrifice being asked of you, something that you need to either spiritualize or recognize that needs to be given up for the greater whole of some kind, maybe for the relationship, maybe for the business, maybe for, whatever this relates to. But in that is birthing a new belief system, a new way of being. And it could be even like just more travel could be more indicated. You deciding to get some higher education, getting a mentor, or anything associated with the ninth house because of the sacrifice that you're willing to make. So let me know how that resonates for you, and I will see you guys next time. So for Libra sun and Libra rising, this conjunction is happening in your sixth house. So Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here till 2026. Now, Mars and Neptune are asking for some sort of sacrifice. I just want to say, having Saturn in the sixth definitely can bring up some like health issues for some, if that's already kind of indicated in your chart. And yet it can also bring solutions for that. Anyway, okay, so Mars and Neptune are coming here and they're asking for some sort of sacrifice. And you don't have to do the sacrifice, right? Like, it's like this giving you an opportunity to spiritualize something, which can often mean like giving something up for a greater good. So it could be in your area, in your idea of like health, any diets, the work environment that you work in, fitness. And it can also be something to do with your like personal income or self-esteem that might have been revealed to you during the Scorpio moon cycle from 1113 to 423. So, because two of your money houses are factoring into this equation, so this could have to do with some sort of with income and money coming in. For some Libras, I could see this as like a loss of personal, like your own income, in order to make greater investments or a better joint venture. And that could have something to do with health. That could be the sixth house stuff that I'm talking about. So it could be like you sacrificing some of your personal income because you have like health issues that you need to deal with, and then deciding to invest in some course or something that will pay off more in the long run. That's just like one random example I just came up with. And I'm just trying to paint kind of this picture about how like you are somehow like there's some sort of sacrifice for the greater good in the financial and health matters that is for something, creating something bigger than yourself. Now Neptune has been in this house since 2012. So there's this energy of like being in service of something greater than yourself that's been present for you guys. That could be like helping needy people, helping sick people, helping disadvantaged people because it's Neptune, or even like people who are addicts. That could be something that you've helped, or you entered like a health or fitness or diet related career at that time, or actually Neptune can dissolve things too. So it could be like during from 2012, like there's been a dissolution in your health, and Neptune can really make it difficult to figure out what exactly is going on. So it could be like unexplained symptoms, or autoimmune stuff that is it can't really be pinpointed, or chronic pain that can't really be pinpointed. So Mars just joining this part of your chart is saying, hey, because whatever you started during Neptune moving into that sixth house 12 in 2012, you may have had to like sacrifice your own health for it, in some way. So Mars coming and highlighting this is just saying like, hey, is this still a worthy sacrifice, or do we need to like change kind of what cause we're fighting for here? Like what direction we're going in this house of like health. Do we still want to continue doing this for the next cycle that's to come? Because the gift that's being given to you during this time with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, which I made a video about, is given to you in your eighth house. So like investments paying off, joint ventures. So increase joint finances if you're in a business partnership or a romantic partnership. And intimacy, like increased intimacy with people, your ability to deeply relate to somebody. And there's a new moon happening in this area of your chart on May 7th, sextiling Saturn, and it's giving you a beautiful opportunity to plant a new seed in that eighth house part of your life. So during this time, when Mars and Neptune are asking all these questions about like the sacrifices you made, because the sixth house is actually like a very sacrificial house, and it really asks us to work really hard and sacrifice some of the things that we maybe want during that time, like especially having Saturn there, in order to build something greater. So this is kind of like actually makes even more sense for Libras than like a lot of the other signs. So yeah, I mean, and at the end of May, we've got Jupiter moving into Gemini, which is your fellow air sign. And so I think things will feel a lot lighter for you guys. And yeah, so let me know in the comments how this resonates for you. So Scorpio sun and rising, this conjunction is happening in your fifth house. Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here till 2026. Mars is your traditional ruler, and it's being dissolved here. Now, I think Scorpio does a little bit better with dissolution than maybe like Aries, which is also ruled by Mars, because you guys also have Pluto as a co-ruler. And as I said in the beginning of my the reading, I talked about like the dissolve and coagulate, and that's very Plutonian, like nothing new can come without leaving space, right, for transformation to occur. And that means like getting rid of old things. So So this time it's asking for a review of the things that you find pleasurable in your life, how you have fun, the entertainment you enjoy, how you approach love, romance, dating, and maybe even how you relate to children if you have them. Is there an aspect of this that needs to be spiritualized in some way or sacrificed? There's a part of it that needs to be sacrificed in order for to serve something beyond yourself. And because your gift right now is happening in your seventh house, it's saying like, will your partnerships, your one-on-one relationships, will they be served better if you sacrifice something in this fifth house or you spiritualize something in your fifth house? So this could be like even just changing the way you have fun into like more spiritual things, like joining spiritual groups, going to ecstatic dance, like, going to meditation groups, things like that, or looking at your love and romance patterns and seeing if those are working for the higher good of all, or for the spirit that you're serving. And like I said, because the gift that Jupiter Uranus want to build in your is in your seventh house, I think that if you're in a relationship or in your business partnership, or even like I said, you just work anyone you work one-on-one with, it's asking like, do those fifth house things that I mentioned serve the relationships that you're having? And there's no right or wrong answer, right? Like yes or no. And this is a time where you can kind of figure that out, because on May 7th, we have this beautiful new moon that's happening in Taurus in your seventh house, sextiling Saturn to have that even more stability. And Jupiter Uranus conjunction are still within orb, and the cycle has started for the 14 years, and you get a time to plant a conscious seed in that area of your life of how you want it to look. So yeah, I'm excited to hear how that kind of resonates for you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. So for Sagittarius sun and rising, this is happening in your fourth house. Now Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn will be here until 2026. Now, one thing I want to mention really quick, I just came up about Saturn. I want to say that Saturn in the fourth can cause restrictions in your living situation. So there's some sort of restrictions that you're feeling in your living situation or in your emotions. Like it feels like there's like this containment of your emotions, and depending on your moon sign and if you have anything else in the fourth house, that may feel good or bad. So yeah, I felt like I needed to bring that up to you guys, and you guys need to know, some Sagittarius sun and rising need to know that is something that is being worked through during this time. Okay, that's just came up. Now Mars and Neptune join here and ask you if any changes that you are making in your home, your family life, your deep emotional foundation is serving a greater good than just yourself. And I feel like when I was channeling this energy, it felt like there was like something that's asking you to be of service to others, because the gift that is wanting to be birthed through you during this time is a Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's happening in your sixth house. So I made a video about that. And if you want a more holistic understanding of what that really means, because I bring some other things into it, I'll link the video for that down below. But the sixth house is a house of sacrifice. This is this the It's like we almost have to give up what we want to do in order to serve somebody else, right? So there's an inherent sense of sacrifice in that. So I got this feeling that like some Sagittarius sun and rising want to be more of service to the world, and maybe even be entering like a service related job: therapist, coach, health coach, personal trainer, fitness instructor, nutritionist, even a server, like anything that is a service job. And if it's something that has to do with any sort of like more healing work as service, is when we want to be of service to others. So this Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's trying to give this gift in the sixth house. And this doesn't just have to do with service, right? This is like health. But if you are one of the Sagittarians that want to be of service to others, we have to do a lot of deep inner healing work, which is the fourth house, which is where Mars and Neptune are currently dissolving or asking you to spiritualize something in that area of your life. So we have to be willing to evaluate before we go into service for others. if we are in a place where we can actually do the inner consistent work that is constantly asked of us in order to be of service to other people. And with that being said, like I want to make sure you know that like healing is a journey, right? We're never just like healed. It's a process and it's a journey that we go through our entire lives, and we find beauty in that process and that journey. So you don't have to wait until you're healed to help, right? Like because it's just that's never going to come. Um but what it is really asking is like there is a sacrifice that has to be made as somebody who has done work in the healing services, and I'm like currently doing that. There is a sacrifice. Like you don't just get to show up and not keep doing your own emotional work, because people can sense that. People can sense that like you're not embodied. And so if you are a Sagittarius, I know I went on a rant, and this may not apply to all Sagittarius, but if you're a Sagittarius that's wanting to get into more service oriented work and helping others, just know that that's kind of what this could be asking of you, is like Mars and Neptune wanting to say, like, can you commit to this inner journey of healing so that you can be of service to others? Now, if this doesn't really relate to you, then it's just asking, like, for you to spiritualize any limiting beliefs about your home, your family life, ancestry, or deep emotional roots in order to build something greater in your life. Like I said, with Saturn in the fourth house too, it's like it wants to get something bigger for you and better aligned, but it's just going to kind of limit you at first to make you really have to figure out what's important to you. And then in regard to being of service, May 7th, there is a new moon in your sixth house of your health, being of service, your work environment, diet, fitness. And so it's a great time to plant a new seed regarding all those sixth house things. And it's sextiling Saturn. So there's really this like stability that's brought into it. And the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is still within orb. So, and then at the end of May, I just want to say Jupiter is moving into your seventh house. And I really can't wait to talk about that with you guys, because that's going to be interesting for my Sagittarius sun and risings. So let me know in the comments below how this resonates for you, and I'll see you next time. So Capricorn sun and rising, this conjunction is happening in your third house. Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's going to be here until 2026. But Mars and Neptune come here and they ask you to look at the way that you communicate with others, mostly within your own environment. Is it serving everybody? Or is it just serving you? Because even if your communication is okay, maybe it's like your mindset and your thought patterns. Maybe if writing is a big part of your life, this could also be about writing. Um, you know, my partner is a Capricorn sun and moon, and Jupiter as well. So I feel like I know this energy as well as I can. Um, I have learned it's hard to get to a core of a Capricorn for sure. But my point is that I deeply recognize that like Capricorns feel so responsible for everyone in their life, especially like the people in their immediate environment or in within their like tight knit circle. And you guys really take on this like practical way. So like I feel like a lot of people don't see this because you guys aren't as open as Cancers, which is your opposite sign, about how much you care. But you guys just show it in a practical way, and they show it more in an emotional way. And I know that when you really care about people, your intentions are pure. And even if you don't care about people, like we still want to have a idea of like how our communication is affecting others, even if they're not like our partner or our best friend. And so even if it's someone that you love though, and your intention is helpful, the words can be cutting at times. They can be difficult to hear from the other end because you guys are just like ruled by Saturn. So you're like, this is what it is. And for some people that might be work totally fine, and other times it might be harsh. So, and that's just one example, right? Like maybe you're a Capricorn and you've got so much Pisces in your chart, and your Mercury is all watered up, and you're too soft spoken, and it's not serving the people around you. So I'm just giving that as an example to show that, maybe the way that you're speaking or writing, if that's a huge part of your day-to-day life, is this Mars Neptune conjunction comes in and says, is this serving something greater than yourself? Even your mindset, like, if Saturn tends to put us into this like realistic, bordering on pessimistic mindset sometimes, like, if that is you, is that serving people? Or if you're overly optimistic, like I said, you have tons of Sagittarius in your chart, is that serving the people around you? Is that serving the community around you? It also can affect like not just your immediate environment, but like the organizations you're a part of, the clubs that you're a part of, the groups the social groups that you're in, like, how is it affecting where you want to go in this world, your future dreams, hopes, and wishes, the organizations you want to be a part of? Because during this time, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happened in your fifth house, and it's going to be highlighted again on May 7th when we have the new moon in Taurus, sextiling Saturn, which is your planet. And so watch that video that I made on the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction to see how that gift wants to be birthed through you, because the fifth house is a house of creativity, fun, romance, children, love, play, entertainment. So there's goodness to be had there, and I'll link the video down below. And during this time, though, is just asking, can you really see how maybe the way you're communicating, thinking, writing is affecting people around you, and how that relates to a new seed that can be planted on that Taurus new moon in regard to your fifth house matters. So let me know how that resonates for all my Capricorn sun and risings, and I'll see you next time. All right, so for Aquarius sun and rising, this conjunction is happening in your second house. Saturn and Mars were here together on April 10th, and Saturn's in your second house until 2026. So your values are asking to be changed, and the gold is in your physical home, deep emotional foundations, your family life, your private life, or even the relationship with your mom, if that's something that's really been difficult for you, because the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction just happened in that fourth house, started a new cycle, and the new moon on May 7th is happening in that same house. So you're going to be given an opportunity to plant something new there. And one of the things that I saw for you guys when I was getting into your energy was you are being placed possibly in a position of restricted income, like personal income recently. And Mars and Neptune is coming in to show you why this is happening, to better support your long-term emotional health or your home life. Or even like on a mundane level, like if you want to have a larger home, then you have to sacrifice your second house stuff, as Mars Neptune stuff, sacrifice your income, your own like material resources in order to have that bigger home. Or if you're wanting that deep spiritual work and that takes time, money, you got to work with a therapist, you got to do all this, put in all this effort and time to do this deep spiritual healing. Maybe that places restrictions on your income. And what this Mars Neptune conjunction is saying, because Saturn's there and it's like already imposing some sort of limitation, but Mars and Neptune come in and they say, hey, can you see this as like, can you spiritualize this? Can you choose this sacrifice in order to get something even better that will help not just you, but the people also around you in your home as well, like your family, if you live with other people. But even if you don't, if you live by yourself, this is something that, because you guys have Pluto in your fourth house, or I'm sorry, Pluto in your first house, and you just had the Scorpio full moon in your 10th house. So like, was there some sort of like revelation around career and life direction? Maybe during that moon cycle from November 13th to April 23rd of this year, there was some sort of idea of where you wanted your life to head, this direction that you wanted your life to go to. And in order to go there, Saturn, Jupiter and Uranus conjunction are saying, hey, like, we want to like give you the tools emotionally to get there, but can you see that there might be some sacrifice in your personal income first, and see that as like you're doing this for a better cause, something higher than just like your current needs, your current egoic needs. Um, I also saw this as like if there's a career field that you're in that's no longer serving your deep emotional needs and needs to be spiritualized in some way. And like once again, that goes back to what I was saying about the restriction of the income and sacrificing that, because if that career is no longer serving your needs, or that public image, the reputation you have, that life direction, the 10th house stuff is no longer serving what you need emotionally, then maybe shifting that is going to take up some of your financial resources. And like, can you be okay with that? Is what it's just kind of like asking you. Um, Maybe you even have like deeply held values and you want to share them with the world, because the second house is values. So Saturn's like cleaning up in here, like what values are important, what values aren't important. And so you'll be ready to share them because, like I said, Pluto's in your first house. So the way you're showing up in the world is going to be going through so many metamorphoses. And part of that could have to do with your value system and like things that, you need to really do the homework on your budgets, on your values, on all these things in order to like grow into something that is more aligned and more you at this time. And also letting you know that Jupiter is moving into your fellow air sign at the end of May. And I'm excited for like really all the signs, but especially anyone who's like being squared, especially, I don't know, I feel like Aquarius definitely, like the Taurus energy, and having like one of your rulers, Uranus and Taurus, for such a long time. It's kind of like a not doesn't love being in Taurus. So I definitely feel like I'm excited to talk about what's coming up for Aquariuses at the end of May and June and beyond. I do feel like more lightness is coming because, like I said, Jupiter is moving into a fellow air sign. So, yeah, I'm interested to know how any of that resonates for you guys. Please let me know down in the comments below. And if you want more information about the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in your fourth house, which is what is kind of asking to be like birthed through you or given to you at this time, I will link that video down below. Okay, so for Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising, this conjunction is happening in your first house. So Saturn and Mars joined here together on April 10th, which I feel like could have been tough for a lot of Pisces, right? This is general reading, but Saturn's also going to be there till 2026. We've talked about this, right? We've talked about how this can be a little bit more difficult unless you have a lot of hardy aspects in your birth chart that allow you to deal with Saturn better. But even like I said to Capricorns, like even as a Capricorn ruled by Saturn, like Saturn's gonna Saturn, So it's still just like not like the lightest thing. But I absolutely love Saturn. I love working with Saturn too. So no hate for Saturn here. I just know that it can feel difficult at times. But you get the reward if you put in the work. You sure do. So the good thing is that Neptune's your co-ruler. So you're not completely like unfamiliar to this energy of like dissolution of the self for something greater. Like that's definitely not new to most Pisces. The feeling I get for you guys is because it's happening in your first house, this is your attitude or your outlook on life. Is it serving the greater good? Is it even serving yourself at this point? Like, but really like forgetting yourself for a second and saying like, is this serving a greater good? How are you acting in the world? How are you moving through the world? Especially if you're having a difficult time, is it serving yourself, the collective, the people around you? Um, in the other video, I talked about how writing could be really useful for Pisces at this time because we've got that Jupiter Uranus conjunction in the third house of communication, daily commutes, writing, thoughts, mindset, learning new skills, ideas, and generally more positivity with the people around you. And I can see this as like, because there's a new moon that's happening on May 7th in the same area of your chart that the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is in. I made a video about that too, so I'll link that down below so you can get a better holistic idea of that. But when that new moon happens and the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is still within orb, it's asking for all this new and like blessed beginnings in this area of your chart and abundance in this area of your chart. And Yet, before we get there to plant that new seed on May 7th, Mars and Neptune are coming in and saying, okay, but how can all of those things be given to you and birthed through you, right? Like I talked to some Pisces that are like writing memoirs and doing all these things. How can that be birthed through you if your outlook or your attitude is not serving the higher collective? That's just one example, right? That I'm just trying to show how this could show up for a lot of Pisces, and how this Mars Neptune time is really getting you guys ready to plant that new seed and making sure that whatever that you are doing with that third house, that whatever creation is coming through that third house is in somehow being reflected through the lens of your outlook, which is serving the higher good, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, so the Mars Neptune conjunction, it feels like it's just bringing awareness to yourself, to your attitude. And it's saying, like, can you sacrifice a part of yourself in, like, not a self abandoning way or a dissociative way, but can you sacrifice an aspect of yourself or your attitude in order to be given this gift to communicate and think in a more positive and abundant way and to help others? Like, I feel like Pisces energy is always helping others, even if they don't consciously want to. But that's really, it's like spiritualizing some. So, like, if you're going through a hard time, or even if you're going through a good time, how can we spiritualize that and say, okay, this is happening for a reason, and changing my outlook and attitude about things so that I can get the gift that I'm meant to get in the third house, you know? So, one of the things that I just thought of too with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction could be like learning a new skill in writing, just a random thing. Yeah, so I think that's all I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments below how that resonates, and I will see you next time.